Welcome back to another episode of Vikings Happy Hour. We're here to break down the TJ Hockenson trade, look at some of the vets that are kind of revitalizing their career this season, and then also point out the problem children in Greg Joseph and Ed Ingram and how we're going to solve that moving forward. So grab your Lake Monster beer and enjoy the show.
Welcome to Vikings Happy Hour, where we mix our favorite beverage and talk of your Minnesota Vikings. Skol!
Let's go. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Vikings Happy Hour. Tonight joined by Ryan, Miles, and Dave, the OG crew that you see every week, and we don't have a lot of time to waste here with introductions. The Vikings made a huge move yesterday in a move that we typically have not seen from this regime, and maybe that's just because we've been dealt with Rick Spielman the past handful of years. But Kwesi, he sent a message to this team: we're all in, sending a second and a third round draft pick for TJ Hockenson, a fourth and a conditional fourth back to the Vikings. And it comes at a timely point in the season, right, with Irv Smith just going down with an alleged ankle injury, TBD on how long that's supposed to keep him sidelined. But also the Vikings are in 6-1 and in the driver's seat to really take hold of the NFC North. So Miles, I'm going to throw it to you first. What are your thoughts? What was your initial reaction when you heard the news, and what are your thoughts on how this is going to help the Vikings?
Yeah, my initial thought was, holy shit. I just didn't expect two things, right? It was the interdivision trade again with the Lions, another big trade between the Vikings and Lions, which we've talked about this when the Vikings traded with the Lions back in the draft. I have no issues trading within the division. They did it with the Packers too, right? So if you find the right deal, there's no reason you shouldn't, especially if you're Kwesi. Like if you're acquiring assets and talent, like a TJ Hockenson, go for it. But then the second thing that brought to my mind was, I had three thoughts. First, holy shit! I can't believe they made this move. The second was, how bad is Irv Smith hurt? Just because I didn't expect tight end to be a priority, and I don't think tight end was a priority until the Irv Smith injury came back as serious as it did. That doesn't mean they weren't exploring these scenarios, but I think, in my honest opinion, I think wide receiver was going to be the plan, and then Irv Smith got hurt for 8 to 10 plus weeks, and so Kwesi decided, hey, let's scrap that idea and let's focus on the short and long term solution at tight end, and I think that's what this is. And then the third thing for me was, this dude's pretty good. TJ Hawkinson's a really good player. He's, for me, there's obviously the upper echelon tight ends, right? There's Mark Andrews, there's Travis Kelce, George Kittle, there's Darren Waller when he's healthy. Those guys are kind of that initial upper tier. I'll kind of drop Darren Waller down just because of the injuries, but those three guys are usually the core elite players at the position in football. And then right below that tier is the TJ Hawkinsons, Dallas Goederts, Darren Wallers. I'm probably missing somebody that's not Zach Ertz. Those types of guys are right below that. And so for me, I love that about a TJ Hockenson is he's only 25 years old. He's under contract through next year at a fairly reasonable number, $9 million for a really good young emerging tight end. And then we see tight ends. He's TJ Hockenson is starting to hit that ascension right now into his prime, where we saw guys like Travis Kelce, we saw George Kittle, those guys really started to hit their strides right around this time in their careers. So to really see TJ Hockenson get a chance on a team that needs a true number two weapon, this is really big in my opinion, because I'm a little saddened in the fact that you're not getting TJ Hockenson and another wide receiver. you're getting TJ Hockenson as kind of like the Irv Smith replacement. Yes, I think he's an upgrade over Irv Smith, and I think he's better like as an overall tight end and can stretch the field a little bit better than Irv Smith can. He has like 15 yards per catch so far this year, but I'm not disappointed. It just sucks that it'll be. I was hoping it's hard to call this an all-in move in the sense that you're having to replace an injured player with Hockenson instead of adding an additional piece to the offense. But all in all, I'm still super excited about it because TJ Hawkinson's a really good player, and I think he can take this tight end position group and like the middle of the field to the next level for this offense.
Ryan, 2 questions for you quick then. Are you okay with the compensation that they gave up for him? And additionally, do you think they make this move without an Irv Smith injury? Putting you on the spot.
I'll answer the second one first because I'm not 100% sure if they do. Like Miles said, I think there was a lot of chatter out there about the Vikings poking around at wide receiver. I mean, we heard reports on Claypool. We heard reports on Brandon Cooks. I think Judy. There was reports out there that we are looking at some of those guys. So I don't know if we make this move without it. And I've been disappointed with Irv. I'm going to be honest with you. I
rightfully
like him
so.
Yeah. I mean, again, he's a likable personality. I love the energy he brought when he was healthy. He just had a hard time staying healthy. He had some concentration issues, which it's NFL football. It's really hard to play at a high level, but you wish that he makes some of those catches. That Eagles game drop is the most relevant one, right? You make that catch. We believe that's a catch that TJ Hockenson will make. And that maybe that changes the outlook of that game. Maybe not. We still got worked, but maybe it does, right? So I'm not 100% sure. Now, talking on the compensation piece, I don't think it's a bad compensation price to pay for him. And the reason why is because of those fourths we got back, or fourth and fifth that we got back, depending on hopefully if we win this playoff game. That's the stipulation on the fourth becoming a fifth, but. Because when you look at any chart, most of the charts, right, we might have overpaid a little bit, but most charts are saying basically it was the equivalent of giving up a 6th or a 5th round pick for him. I know it seems way worse because it's a 2nd and a 3rd, but when you do like the data points that they say and the calculations of how much each of these picks are worth based on a value chart, Luke Braun, actually a friend of the show, I think it was Luke Braun. No, Matt Freeze put out a really good like explanation of all the value-based charts there and kind of showing what the value was. And it ended up being basically like I think it was a 6th or a 5th round pick, which I'm sure all of us would be ecstatic to just send a singular 5th or 6th for him. So and I think that he to Miles's point, he's a game changer, and to everything that Irv Smith does, he does better. He's a little bit healthier. He does get nicked up quite a bit too, but he seemed to be a little bit healthier overall, and he's a better blocker. And that's a huge thing for this offense, is that ability not only to go out and run some routes and catch the ball, but also can you inline block? And that's something Irv was okay at. Hockenson's much better.
Yeah, there's some. And by the way, Dave, I don't know if you saw Miles's chat, but there's something he wants to touch on. If you can take a look at that. But the other thing that I want to talk about with this Hockenson trade is, so it's not only a move for right now, but I don't anticipate Hockenson being out of the picture here in a couple of years. Like, he's under team control through next year. Miles, I don't remember the number off the top of my head. What you mentioned, that franchise tagging a tight end is relatively cheap, correct? I don't know if you know the number off the top of your head.
Yeah, so the 2023 offseason, it should be right around 10-ish. I think the transition tag's like 10 million, and I think the franchise tag's like 12. And obviously that number will go up into 2024. But by that point, if you don't have an extension done with Hockenson, then you still could potentially franchise tag him. So that option's on the table, because yes, it might be a little bit expensive, but Hockenson at his age, at that point, it'd probably be worth franchise tagging that type of player, in 2 years. And so that it just puts another thing in your back pocket in case you need it. Obviously, you would like Kwesi made this move in the hopes that, Hockenson's here long term, beyond just the 5th-year option next year. So I think that's obvious, but they do have the franchise tag in their back pocket, which I think they very much will be open to using if they need to.
Well, let's talk about Kwesi for a second, because in his early Vikings tenure as GM, he's been nothing but well-calculated, aggressive, in really bringing in, I don't have the tweet in front of me, but someone laid it out perfect. I think it was 11 players for under $25 million total against the cap. And these aren't just like scrubs either. These are people who are contributing for our team. When you think about, I'm not, granted, this first example is not going to be a good one, but a 7th-round draft pick for Nick Mullins, right, to really solidify that backup quarterback position. A 6th-round pick.
Why isn't that a good example, though? I mean, it's an important piece.
I was just saying, like, contributing-wise.
Sure. But, I mean, that provides us a little bit of, safety net.
Yeah, for sure. And then, but you also have, like, we might see him soon, right? Or not. Sorry, I misspoke here. But a 6th-round pick for Ross Blacklock. Moved Jesse Davis, right? A crowded guard room. Moved him for a 7th-round pick, so got that back. Addressed the wide receiver depth after Olabisi went down for a 4th and a 7th for Jalen Reagor. And then yesterday's move with TJ Hockenson. So at what point do we start to say, like, Kwesi's the guy, and maybe is it too soon to start talking about building this man a statue outside TCO?
It is.
Yeah, maybe a little.
Well, of course it is. Well, so Matt, we were talking earlier today. One thing that gets thrown around, because we've heard from Kwesi when he first came in, was he wanted to make this a competitive rebuilding team. Like, his process was competitive rebuilding. Yep. And I think we called some bullshit on some of it, just because we saw him running it back with a lot of the players that hadn't, from the team, from the last regime, and the aging vets and those things. And I myself even said, like, I kind of call bullshit on that competitive rebuild, but the trades and the draft is exactly where he's been competitive rebuilding this team and this roster and revamping this roster. And I think it kind of gets missed. So obviously, you talk about, we'll start with the draft. He focused on the draft on trading back. That was the high priority, but not just to trade back, but to trade back to collect day 2 picks. And day 2 picks help rebuild a roster quickly, because they're talented players. They're got 4 years of team control while you develop them, but you also have those guys that they're fairly, they should be fairly talented. Obviously, not every guy always hits, but the more swings that you get in those range, the better options. And so that was the first start for me, was when he did that. And then besides the Nick Mullins trade, which was just a conditional 7th, all the other trades that Kwesi has made haven't been rental trades. They've been long-term viewpoints in helping revamp their roster, the long term. Obviously, we got the TJ Hockenson move yesterday. We have the Jalen Reagor move, which is another guy who at least will for sure be on the roster next year. You have Ross Blacklock, same thing. He'll be on the roster next year as well. And then you look at a guy like Johnny Munt, and Chris Reed, two free agent signings, really low key moves. And Chris Reed's been inactive, but I still think he's a quality depth piece. Both of those guys are on the roster next year as well for vet minimum deals. Johnny Munt's been a good quality tight end too for this team, a good blocker, and I think he's a decent receiver, whatever, right? So you have that solidified, for the next couple of years. And then Chris Reed, who has a experience at both guard positions and a little bit of center, between this year and next year. So you have those guys. It wasn't just about loading up for now. Kwesi made sure the moves he made were about the future. And then obviously you add like Zadarius Smith. That was arguably the best contract we've seen in free agency this year. And you talk about his play, and then you talk about the controllability that the team has moving forward with that contract. So really excited to see Kwesi like rebuild and revamp the roster on the fly, because he knows that he has some of these aging vets that they're going to age out. At some point, Harrison Smith's going to decline. Adam Thielen, we're seeing a little bit of it. Like some of those guys, older guys like Eric Kendricks, Dalvin Cook, those guys, and even Kirk Cousins to a degree, like those guys will eventually start phasing out. And you can see Kwesi starting to prepare for that so that they don't have to completely revamp the entire roster. They're starting that process already. And so that part for me, I really enjoy. I think that should be taken into account.
Ryan, you've brought that up before, right? Especially as it pertains to the draft and Kwesi's forward thinking about the positions that he took this past year and the correlating aging vet that comes along with it.
Yeah. And this Hockenson move is another case of that, right? Like, people are saying this is an all-in move. This is a competitive rebuild move. I know that we kind of made fun of that term earlier in the offseason, but it's exactly what it is. That move allows you to stay competitive with a 6-1 football team, but it's also part of the rebuild. We needed a tight end for the long-term future. And that's what we're getting out of TJ Hockenson with, again, like we have mentioned multiple times, a year and a half of year and a half of control with the ability to franchise tag beyond that if we needed to. And hopefully we'll work out a deal so we don't necessarily need to have $9 million cap hit next year or whatever it is. But yeah, 9. So I mean, 9.4. There you go. Yeah. So I think that we're seeing it in action. And to Miles's point, all these moves are with team control. We're not trading for aging vets that we've done in the past. Right. This is allowing us to keep these trades at a cheap rate when we get these guys. So we're not having to restructure the Eric Kendricks or the who's the other one the other big one, Dalvin Cook, right?
Dalvin Cook. Yeah, those are the two guys.
Yep. Is it Dalvin? Okay, those are the two available. So giving us the flexibility, because I have mentioned it in a tweet earlier today that like we're stuck with Thielen and we're stuck with Harrison Smith for at least next year at minimum. And when I say stuck, it's not like the worst thing in the world. It's not like Harrison Smith's fallen off a cliff or anything, right? But you don't have flexibility. If Lewis Cine comes back and plays really, really well, and Cam Bynum comes back and plays really, really well, and we have Harrison Smith, we have no flexibility because we have to keep him because of the cap hit situation. So it's really important for us to keep that flexibility, and I think he's doing a great job of that. And part of doing that is not bringing in expensive vets and bringing in these guys with multiple years of team control at a cheap rate.
So let's transition, if you guys are good with this, unless you have anything else to add on the TJ Hockenson, Kwesi side of things.
I do real quick.
Yeah. So go for it.
So the one thing that TJ adds that I'm super excited about, because we've been talking about all season, the one thing the Vikings offense has been missing is those explosive plays, and especially in the pass game. And TJ Hockenson, so Justin Jefferson has 23. So Spencer Thomas, friend of the show, friend of Kind of the Pocket, great dude to follow on Twitter. He posted just like an hour ago receptions of 20+ yards for Vikings wide receivers and tight ends. Justin Jefferson has 23. Adam Thielen has 2. KJ Osborne has 1. Nobody else on the Vikings roster has any. And then you add TJ Hockenson, who coming from Detroit has 11 of those, which is a really good number for a tight end. That's an explosive playmaker. You're adding that to this offense. Now, my hope is like they utilize that, right? It's not just plug him in and let him do exactly what Irv was doing, and you're not asking him to be explosive. My hope is that he could be that explosive middle of the field guy. He's helping keep the safeties in the middle of the field and freeing up some of those opportunities for the guys on the outside, JJ, Adam Thielen, KJ Osborne, giving those guys opportunities to be a little bit more explosive because he threatens that middle of the field down the field. And so I'm excited to see how KOC, and my guess is KOC saw that too as part of their the reason they wanted to trade for Hockenson too is they knew they needed a guy that could help stretch the field. And we've been talking like they needed a receiver to do that. I still think they need a receiver to do that, but this is a really, really good consolation prize in the fact that he could do that in the middle of the field as good as anybody in the league right now. And so I think you're really going to hopefully as the season goes on, first couple weeks, temper those expectations for TJ. But I think as the season goes on, you're really going to see a little bit more explosion and explosive plays, especially in the middle of the field and obviously hopefully to the other playmakers that we have.
Well, you've seen across the web where his yak is astronomical. Yards after catch. He's second only behind Christian, what's his face, on Niners, the running back, CDC.
Christian McCaffrey?
Yeah. And He's got like 172 yards total after the catch. He's unbelievable after the catch. He's hard to tackle, and he's got wiggle. Now, granted, a couple of those were ginormous breakout runs. One was an 80-plus yarder. But he has that ability. We did not have that or did not see that from Irv up until this point. We do not see it from Johnny Munt. We have yet to see hardly any of it from Adam Thielen or KJ so far. Mm-hmm. I think, like Miles said, that adds that extra bit that's going to cause defenses to, change how they play. They're not going to be able to just keep a safety over the top of JJ all the time, or they're going to get burned in the intermediate range by TJ. I think this was a brilliant move.
Yeah.
Well, and again, adding to that a little bit, and then I have a comment to say about Miles real quick. Is that again, this adding a playmaking receiver would have been amazing, but that does only help you in the receiving for the most part, unless you get like a great receiver who can also block on the outside. But TJ helps as a very, very good receiver as well as inline blocker, which is great. Now, Matt, we've known Miles for quite a few years. Look at the purple shirt, and like he's drinking something different tonight. I think it's the purple Kool-Aid. He's drinking. This is the most positive. This is the most positive I've ever seen Miles.
Miles is in on this season.
Yeah,
Miles is in.
It's the most positive. Hey, listen. It's the most positive this team has been in years. Like, honestly.
Since 2009? 14?
No.
Miles doesn't like that season.
No. 2009 no. I liked 2009. I just didn't like the outcome, and I didn't like the quarterback then, and I don't like him now.
Skull TYA asked a question that plays into this. Does this feel different this season?
So that's the part. So this is the part I've been struggling with is I don't know if they feel different, but you can tell the energy behind the team. They're doing things. They're finding the little areas that they weren't in the past to make sure that they're not losing some of the games that they might have let slip before. And that's a huge case. Obviously, they've given themselves enough wiggle room at 6-1, to fix. Hopefully, obviously, we want to see them fix some of these mistakes, but they have some leverage and leeway now. If they drop a game or two, it's not the end of the world. You don't want to see it, but I wouldn't be surprised if a game gets dropped or two, a couple here or there. But they've given themselves that cushion against the Packers, especially in the division. To if they needed to have a down game, it's likely to happen at some point. So they've given themselves enough wiggle room. But the part where I struggle, like feeling different, is like I'm still not sure how good this team is. But they've got me bought in. So that I guess like that's really all that matters right now is they're 6-1, and
I got you optimistic.
They're playing, that's all you can. Like honestly, that's all you can be. Like I'm still waiting for the shoe to drop. I'm not gonna lie, but let me
ask you a question.
I'm way more optimistic than I have been in years.
Does this season remind you? Because for me, and I think I brought this up. Was it Sunday, Dave, with you and Jason maybe on the final score? This season reminds me of 2017. Not the talent-wise on the roster, but just in the sense that like there was a point in that season where we just kept winning, and it was like how are we winning like with Case Keenum at quarterback? But the team was bought in. They just kept winning until the NFC Championship game. So I don't know. The vibe feels the same. I think the outcome will be different in the end, but. I don't know.
You think because it's going to be with a Super Bowl win, you purple Kool-Aid drinkers over here?
Hey, man. I'm always drinking that purple Kool-Aid, so this is probably a good time to do a few things here. So first off, I want to shout out everybody in the comments tonight. We can tell that you're just as hyped up as we are, so keep those comments coming. It's such a fun season. Winning just makes everything better. Speaking of making things better, you can make your basement or your garage a lot better by hitting up That's Badass Wood Art by our guy Luis. And if you use Climb in the Pockets promo code, you get 20% off any one item. That is CTP or CT Pocket, sorry. and that gets you 20% off. So make sure you head over to that'sbadasswoodart.com. Order a piece. Christmas is around the corner. All the other holidays
we
as
need to
well.
get a piece. Matt, we got to get ours.
I know. I've dropped the ball.
Yeah, I got to get one here. Look at we got this open spot right here. My bookshelf thing fell down today, so I need to fill it with something better.
Wide open spaces.
I'm sure my wife's gonna love one of those amazing wood art pieces in our kitchen. She's gonna love it.
We've heard the listeners are ordering using that promo code, so keep firing it up, guys, and get yourself one, because we will be getting one as well soon. Two more topics here on the night, and we'll start with the aging veterans. We've talked about them quite a bit, but they've been a pleasant surprise. At least a few of them have been through this season. So the two I want to talk about specifically are Patrick Peterson and Zadarius Smith. Now, Zadarius Smith he's aging, right? He is 30 years old, and probably doesn't have many years left, I would assume. But we're starting off. He's 8.5 sacks on the year, tied for first in the NFL. 33 pressures, which is tied second among defensive players. And the best part about Zadarius Smith, by the way, and this is another kudos to Kwesi, $11.5 million the Packers are paying him this year, not us. But then the flip side, Patrick Peterson, 10 pass breakups on the season, and it's tied for second in the NFL. He's got the 9th best Pro Football Focus grade among cornerbacks. Are you guys surprised by these veterans? Did you expect a fall off, or do you think a fallout is coming, or do you think they sustain? I mean, yeah, I'm leaving it wide open for you.
Yeah, I'll take the first shot at this here, Miles. Patrick Peterson's a surprise. I wouldn't say Zadarius Smith is a surprise. As long as that guy's healthy, I think he's a very, very good football player. And again, he's got that dog mentality, I love. And when you have that, you're gonna be able to wreck some games, and he's doing exactly that. As long as he's healthy, he's going to be doing that. Patrick Peterson is the surprise for me, honestly, at this point in time. And maybe I was really high on Andrew Booth preseason, like just when we drafted him, that I was like, okay, by mid-year, we're about mid-year now, I assumed that Patrick Peterson would have been supplanted by Booth, and we would have Booth and Dantzler, the future of the cornerback room, starting by now, maybe Patrick Peterson rotating in. But it's hard to put this guy on the bench right now. I mean, he's playing well. But I did hear that the Washington Commanders were putting, notes and emails on his chair saying that he's trash and he's old and he's worthless. You got to hype him up somewhere, because whatever the Cardinals did, that really hyped him up, and we need that Patrick Peterson every week. So I gotta figure out a way to con one of the Commanders into doing that. So no, I mean, he's playing well. It's fun to watch. It's fun to see him get all riled up against the Cardinals and
playing with confidence, and for
sure. Playing with confidence, but not only that, but he's still being a great mentor to some of these young guys. So when Andrew Booth does need to come in, when Caleb Evans needs to come in, hopefully they're going to be able to be in a position where they've watched, they've observed, they've been able to kind of see how he's been playing, and hopefully they can replicate at least to a certain extent.
Yeah. Miles, what about you? You surprised by these veterans?
No. I'm not surprised by Zadarius Smith. Like Brian said, him healthy, he's a top tier edge rusher. So I'm not surprised, and especially since he's coming to a team and a defense that he knows, and was built in with Green Bay. So that part isn't surprising to me. It's the and Patrick Peterson, Patrick Peterson in man coverage is not the same guy Patrick Peterson in man coverage was 3-4 years ago. That guy's not there anymore. But and obviously the Cardinals game was a little bit more incentive. Like that dude had a chip on his shoulder. You could hear him talking shit. I love that, by the way. That kind of energy from a player on defense. We haven't seen that in a while. I love that. Like that's my vibe. I love shit talking. Like I love hearing Vikings players talk shit. And so Garrett Bradbury getting a penalty for telling it he's soft was funny to me. But like Patrick Peterson, so the one thing I'll say about
hold
him
on
is,
real quick, Miles. Miles, real quick,
What?
just because you brought up Bradbury, and then you can keep going on Patrick Peterson. Hey, that dude's a surprise this year. If anyone, he's the surprise this year because he's actually playing pretty well. All right, you go on.
No, I don't disagree. But I actually kind of expected it for Bradbury just because of the new scheme and stuff. But anyways, with Patrick Peterson, the reason I'm not surprised is because it's not that I don't think he's not playing well. I think he's playing well. I don't think he's playing as well as some people think. But I do think the defense helps mask some of that. Like we're still giving up a lot of yards, giving up a lot of big plays. And like I said, Peterson isn't the same guy he has been in man coverage. So when he gets put on an island against most explosive receivers, he's struggling, which was expected, right? So he's not a liability. I'm not trying to call him a liability, not by any means, Roger. But what I'm saying is he's not like I think fans saw on Sunday, and I thought I don't think we've seen Patrick Peterson play that well in years, like the way he did on Sunday. But I don't think that's sustainable for him. But that's okay. He's still playing at a good enough level that this team is doing well. And my hope is that they still can get some of those young guys rotated in because I think they're still going to need that experience at some point. And it doesn't have to be for Peterson either. It could be Dantzler, could be for Chandon Sullivan. But like, yeah. And that's kind of where I'm at with Peterson. I think he's playing well though.
Yeah. And part of the reason why Peterson looked so good on Sunday, though, is I think for almost every snap, DeAndre Hopkins was lined up on the left side of the offense on Dantzler's side. So, I mean, not to talk crap on Peterson because, again, he played a really, really great game. But if he was going up against Hopkins, we might be having a different discussion today.
And if you listen to Patrick Peterson on his podcast today, he is still fired up.
Good.
Yep.
Good. They have no reason not to be. So I think we're settled on the aging vets. I think we're all in the same boat. But I want to talk about some problem children that we have on our team. They've kind of had the yips maybe the last few games. First one being Ed Ingram. He just kind of looks lost out there. And then the other one, which he was hyped all training camp by our special teams coordinator, Greg Joseph. A couple misses. So what do we do with these guys? I mean, I don't think this regime is going to outright cut Greg Joseph like the last regime probably would have done. But
they can't. They can't cut Greg Joseph. They can't afford to cut Greg Joseph. That's the difficult part. Like maybe they sign a guy to the practice squad if it continues to get worse. But he's got a guaranteed $2.4 million contract for Joseph. So you're not cutting him and saving any money. So that's the hard part. You're losing cap space that you already don't have.
You got to fix him. It's probably something simple, and you got to fix him. You got to figure out what that is and fix it.
I'm watching these videos of Gabe Burkich. I know we cut him already, but man, that guy's hitting all these field goals on Twitter right now, and I'm like, hey, let's give him another try. But
the best kickers in the world are the ones that kick on social media.
Yeah, because they don't have a job. They don't have a job. There's no pressure, so they're making them. Yeah. No, I want to give Ed Ingram a little bit of a break. It's a recency bias. It's a recency bias that we go through right now. He just had the worst game of his young career, right? He was going up against J.J. Watt. Now, I know J.J. Watt is not the 2012 or 2013 Defensive Player of the Year J.J. Watt today. But the dude's still a baller. He's one of the better defenders in our generation of watching football, right? And he just went against Ed Ingram and destroyed him. He did. He made his life a living hell. But let's give him a little bit of a break, right? Like the guy just went against one of the better defenders in the league. And while I'm not sitting here saying, oh, Ed Ingram has been amazing in every game other than against J.J. Watt, because he's obviously had his had his issues, but he still shows a lot of promise. He does play relatively well in most situations. He had a horrible game on Sunday, but let's continue to use that as a learning opportunity to say, hey, this is what happened. This is what went wrong. How do we continue to fix it? And that's the offensive line coach's job. I don't think the answer is switching to Chris Reed, who's inactive for a reason. I don't think the solution was trying to go and grab Austin Corbett in a trade. You got to let a young second round pick go through these issues and figure it out. And if he can't figure it out after a year or two, obviously we cut bait. But we got to give him an opportunity to continue to learn.
And if you watch his film, yes, he got destroyed by J.J. Watt. And J.J. Watt is this outstanding defensive tackle in this league, obviously.
Yeah.
But he also had good reps against him numerous times. It wasn't 100% he got trashed. Yeah, there was more times than you want. I mean, anytime you see a lineman get burned, you think, oh my God, right? But it usually only happens 1 or 2 or 3 times a game. If the rest of the game's fine, he's okay, right? That's normal. Now, for Ed, it's more than 1 or 2 or 3 times. He's learning how to handle stunts. He's learning how to, we talked about J.J. Watt. J.J. Watt isn't the player he used to be, but he's still got the brain of the player he used to be. And when he saw Ed Ingram come up a little high, he said, I got him beat. And he went down low and went across, right? That's because he's old and he's wise and he knows what to do. Patrick Peterson's doing the same thing. Even though he's playing more zone versus man-and-man, he's using that brain that he still has. Ed Ingram is going to learn. And yes, the coach needs to, pardon me, get with him, and they need to work on the touchy-feely stuff to learn, when to put a hand out for fielding, when to set and pop, and when to keep his feet moving and keep square up. But he can do that. That's coaching. He has the ability. We've seen him do it. He has the physical skills. Let him learn through this because he's going to come out better on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
The hard part is you're not going to get the coaching isn't going to be greatly impacted in the middle of the season. That's the hard part. You're not going to be able to fix.
It's a hard.
You're not going to be able to fix a lot of it in the middle of the season. But the hope is it's the mental stuff. You need to make sure the mental stuff isn't happening because the physical stuff. As a rookie, he's going to go through those growing pains. He's going to get bullied. Those types of things are going to happen to a rookie. But it's the mental stuff that you need to make sure that you at least clear up.
Look at you guys, just full of optimism and just like great critiques, like just night and day difference from a year ago. I'm proud of you guys, by the way.
Well, the funny part. So real quick, Matt, we had a comment that said eventually some team won't turn the ball over, and where was it?
Commit consecutive penalties.
I'm still worried about. Yeah, well, and I'm still worried about like the sustainability of winning these 1-score games because eventually they'll even out. That same thing happened last year, but in reverse. We started off losing those 1-score games, but then we ended up winning those games toward the later part of the season. I'm not saying the Vikings are going to do that. I think they're too well coached. I think the team is playing too well to like completely bottom out at that point. But again, I'm still holding. I still wouldn't be surprised if they dropped a few games that we wouldn't expect them to drop because of some of the things that they've gotten away with in the start of the season. Now, if they clean that up, then it's a wrap. This team could be a top 3 to 2 seed, 1 seed if the Eagles lose a couple games. So the Vikings are obviously in the driver's seat to be a top 3 seed in the NFC right now.
Yeah, and to kind of go along with that too, Miles, though, is that we're learning as we go, right? So we're learning how to win these tight games, which we were losing last year. And you sit here and you look at like a game like Washington. This isn't a cakewalk game. Like, I mean, winning games in the end, I think Kirk had mentioned this in a post-game conference, and quoting Kirk Cousins. It's funny. This is an interesting year.
Changed man, Ryan.
Yeah, I'm a changed man. But winning games in the NFL is hard. It is a hard thing to do. And you look at this Washington Commanders team, they are fighting for their lives in a very tough division that they're in. They have a backup. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that they're the 2017 Vikings, but they got nothing to lose. They got a backup quarterback who's a gunslinger, who is just going to throw the ball as best as he possibly can and hope that they win the
Kick
game.
down doors.
They have a good defense. Somebody had mentioned the trenches that they present with Ron Payne and Jonathan Allen.
Their D line's good.
They got Chase Young. And, I mean, it's going to be a challenge here. So how do we adjust? How can we take this opportunity and make it a win, right? And that's going to be the challenge this week, and it's going to be through thorough coaching and thorough game planning and execution, which to this point we've done. Have we been? Absolutely. Have we gotten to a point where we're like, gosh, this team's going to fold? Absolutely. And then the fourth quarter comes and this defense stiffens up. This offense comes alive. And maybe that's our formula right now. We hang in until it's game time and then we go, right? Who knows how it goes, but we're stacking up wins as we continue to learn how to be a great team. And we're not a great team. We're still learning. We're a good team. We're an average team. We're a good team. We're a good team that is 6-1, which makes us look like a great team. But we're still learning how to stack these wins while we learn. That's the best case scenario you can do for a competitive rebuild.
Absolutely.
And you see the potential. All the weapons we have. You see that once this gets fine-tuned and even better, we should be able to go out there and score lots of points, and hopefully the defense prevents lots of points being scored, and we get better and better. We all see there's room for improvement, right?
Yep.
And we're still 6-1, and there's room for improvement. And as long as we keep on that trajectory, we're setting up great for December, January, hopefully February.
Yeah. We've flown through the topics for today. So before we get into our predictions for the end of the show here, Aaron threw a comment in our chat, and I'll float it by you quick just because we cruise through. OBJ, what do you guys think about potentially bringing him on board? Do you think? I mean, Kwesi's been aggressive. Do you think that's a move that he would make late in the season? Because what we're hearing, right, is he probably wouldn't be ready to play till maybe even December. So yeah, I'll float that, and then we'll hit predictions.
The hard part with OBJ is that he's worth more, and people are probably willing to pay him more than we can afford. So the only way we can probably make it work is if we do some of these restructures that we've talked about, which we want to try to avoid because of, again, future cap things. Now, If you're sitting here and looking at the one big piece that I'm comfortable extending, or not extending, but restructuring, is Brian O'Neill, because he is the future of our right tackle.
They're gonna have to do that anyways.
Well, right, sure, yeah, exactly. I mean, here's the thing: is to Miles' point, we're gonna have to restructure somebody because the way our team is structured at the moment, we're going to go over the cap at some point. So
Za'Darius Smith roster bonus.
I'll go ahead. So Za'Darius Smith and Danielle Hunter have in-game or game bonuses from here on out.
They have incentives. Yep.
Yeah, they have incentives and bonuses that will put us over the cap if we don't restructure. So we're going to have to restructure somebody. It's going to be Brian O'Neill because he's the future of their right tackle position. So are we comfortable enough with Eric Kendricks' play right now and think that he can continue that play for the next 3-4 years, probably 3 years, I would say, to be able to extend him through where he's at? Now, he's playing well. I'm not going to sit here and say he's not. But are you comfortable? I mean, gosh, I was at the game with my son this week, and whatever that attempt at tackle was with that big long Rondale Moore touchdown.
When he tried to force the fumble.
My son heard quite a few swear words that he shouldn't have heard directed directly towards Eric Kendricks. But can he keep up his relatively great play that he's been doing? And can he do that for the next 2 to 3 years? And if we say yes, then maybe we can create enough cap space for an Odell Beckham on probably a multi-year contract, honestly, because we need to figure out a way to lower the cap hit this year and then allow him to take a bigger cap hit in the years following. So I don't see it happening, but also KJ's fine, and Adam Thielen is getting open still, and we added TJ Hockenson. I would love an Odell Beckham. I would have loved a KJ Hamler. I would have loved a Jerry Jeudy. But that's not situation right now with the cap situation. So I don't necessarily see it happening.
All right, fair enough. That's all we have for tonight's show outside of predictions. So well, let's fly into that. Every week we do a prediction at the end of the show, and we've attempted to get a media guest to pop on for a short second and give us theirs as well. We've had Thor Nystrom, we've had Chris Thomason, we've had Judd Zulgad, we've had Arif Hassan, we've had former Lions All-Pro safety Glover Quinn, and this week we have Declan Goff of Score North.
Okay, what's going on, Vikings Happy Hour? Declan Goff here from Score North, the clickbait officer of Vikings Twitter. Here to give you a little prediction for my guy, Matt. Matt made it onto Score North Twitter today, so congrats, Matt. And sorry for not asking you permission, because apparently that's how it works when you slap people's graphics on tweets. But score prediction for Vikings and Commanders. So I'm actually a pretty big Taylor Heineke guy. I think those guys play hard for Taylor Heineke, and I also can't stand Carson Wentz, so I'm glad to see Heineke succeed. That being said, I think Kirk still gets into Washington. The Vikings cover that 3.5-point spread, and the Vikings win 28-20. Another one-possession game. Maybe the Vikings actually aren't trailing in the second half for once, but 28-20, Vikings win.
Thank you, Declan.
Did we lose Miles?
Yeah, we did. Yeah. Miles had to run here, so we don't get to hear his prediction this week, but
I mean, hey, he's got the young kids, man. You know, they're all bedtime routines and
that's A-okay. Yeah. We know he picked the Vikings to win, right? We saw how optimistic he was.
You saw the purple Kool-Aid that he was drinking tonight. I know. He was all in. Hey, by the way, this is the most optimistic I've ever seen Miles in the years I've
I think we're kind of losing you there, but I think I heard the gist of it. So,
just most optimistic in the years I've known him. I mean, for sure. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Oh
yeah.
I think it helps because I think Miles had grown tired of the old regime and how predictable they became. I think he's all in because I think he likes the head coach. I think he likes the GM. I think he likes the young pieces that they've built and that they actually seem to know what they're doing instead of making panic moves and addressing things when it's like, at the last possible second. So I get why he's a little bit more excited now. But moving back on to predictions, Ryan, what do you have for Sunday's game versus the Washington Commanders?
Donnie has a great prediction. 41 donut.
I would love that.
That's a great prediction, actually. So honestly, I didn't do my research on this because I typically like to look at the line here. So I'm pulling it up as I talk out of my ass right now. So we're 3.5 point favorites currently right now.
43.5
points over under. Yeah. That's good. I think last week it was a close over under, or it was a close. I think we were only like 3-point favorites. We ended up winning by 8, and I think I called that, or I think I called like a touchdown or a little over a touchdown victory, and I think I'm going to do the same this week. So
okay,
I think that this game, like Patrick Peterson, who had a chip on his shoulder last week, I think Kirk's going to say, "Hey, you franchise tagged me twice. And I'm not the guy for you. And now you're trotting out Taylor Heineke. Respect. I love Taylor Heineke. But he ain't Kirk Cousins. So I'm going to say Kirk's going to have a great game this week. And I'm going to say we're going to put up 38. And they're going to put up 27. 38-27.
Let's go. And by the way, Kirk Cousins is very, very close to passing Dante Culpepper all time on the Vikings touchdown passing list. Could happen this week against his former team.
Mm-hmm.
I still have more love for Dante, though. I do, because he was drafted by us. That's probably the only reason. And because, Randy Moss and that role, man, that was the best. Like, that was so fun.
I know. All right. Those are the glory days. Dave, what do you have for a prediction on Sunday?
Well, first off, Kirk's going to keep his touchdown streak going. I say like Ryan, we scored the points we missed last week. It's going to be 38-21. I think we blow away that spread.
Okay.
I've watched the game in that stadium. That stadium is going to probably be 60% purple or better.
Yeah, it's not the crowd.
Hopefully our friend at CTP, Deshaun Vaughn, makes his way over there because I know he's a local over there somewhere.
I might. So I'm not picking Washington to beat us, but it's supposed to be rainy, I'm pretty sure, on Sunday. And we all know how that.
Right.
We all know how that Washington field holds up. I don't think the defensive line for Washington is a joke. I think that they're, pretty legit. I think Vegas has it right. I think it's gonna be a pretty close game. In fact, I'd probably take the under, if I was a betting man. But we don't have that in Minnesota. I'm gonna go 21. I'm gonna go 20-17. And the Viking fans have to hold their breath as Greg Joseph lines up for a game-winning field goal.
So wait. So we don't even cover the spread? You're pulling a Thor Nystrom right now?
I don't think so.
I
don't think so.
I know. It's horrible.
Golly. Oh, come on. You're supposed to be the purple optimist over here. And
I said we'd win.
We'll get Matt on the post-game show. The final score and rag him.
You know what, Matt? Mary Fisk deserves better from you. She deserves better from you. She came out tonight, and she joined us tonight, and you're giving her we're not even covering the spread. Come on.
Hey, man. Don't shoot the messenger. But
you're probably right, though. We're all close games. It's all close games.
It's more of a gut feeling. Something's got to give, right, in one way or the other, and I hope I'm wrong, right? I hope they blow them out, and that's what gave, right? They're just a better offensive team and everything, but I don't know, man. We'll see. But
I'm confident. I'm confident in this game, and honestly, this is a trap game. It really is a trap game for sure. This is probably the biggest trap game we've had so far, and. Yeah, but for whatever reason, I just have.
We can feel that way as fans, but as long as the team is focused, we're golden.
Absolutely. Well, that was a very fun show tonight, and I hope that this time next week we're sitting here talking about the 7-1 Minnesota Vikings heading to face Stephon Diggs and the Buffalo Bills, which I'm going to. It's going to be a blast. So, Ryan, thank you so much for coming on tonight. Miles, if you listen back to the show, thank you. Dave, as always, thank you for producing. For everybody in the chat, holy cow, you were fantastic tonight. Love the comments. If you haven't, head over to our YouTube channel, like, subscribe, turn on notifications whenever we go live. We are here at Vikings Happy Hour every single Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Central. And that's all I have. Dave,
Lake Monster, Badass Woodard. I appreciate all of y'all. You guys keep our show alive with some sponsorship here, and I appreciate it.
Yes.
You guys, this is late great weather in Minnesota. You got to go check out Lake Monster. I know that they got some heaters out there. If it's a little chilly at night, you got to go check it out. Great beer. That's Badass Woodard. I'm getting one right here. I'm going to make my wife buy me one for Christmas. So, we got to do it. We got to do it. All right. You go check out those pages. Go check out those establishments. Fantastic stuff. All right.
And you got me and Darren Campbell, your two old bloggers, on Saturday at 4 p.m. Central. We will be looking at the TJ Hockenson trade a little bit differently than has been done so far this week. We're both pleased to let you know there's a sneak peek. We will break down that Washington Commanders game, the revenge on Taylor Heineke, and we'll go on from there. And then, of course, Sunday in the final 2 minutes. We go live. Matt will join me, and maybe Jason, whoever else.
I can join.
Oh, cool.
Okay.
Look at everybody.
And we'll talk how the Vikings did. And like Ryan and I said, they should be scoring up to 38 points, and we'll be giddy and having a great time. Till then, what do we say, guys?
Skol
Vikings.
Skol Vikings! Did it stop? It stopped.
Skol Vikings.
Hold on. Publish. Like, subscribe, and ring the bell, and feel free to rate us on your favorite aggregator. A big shout out goes to our partners, The Daily Norseman, where the best Vikings content can be found. To That's Badass Wood Art, when you're looking for something unique to brighten your space. And to Lake Monster Brewing, home of the best beer in Minnesota. Skol, everybody!